Springdale is a coeducational, international day and boarding school. We are a warm, welcoming, and safe place to learn.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Tyrone Johnson. Some of my student athletes call me Coach Johnson. Some of my other students call me Mr. Johnson. I am excited about getting a chance to see you guys for the reopening of Springdale in the fall. For my returning students, I really miss you guys. So I'm looking forward to seeing some life back into the school. And for our new students, I'm also looking forward to meeting you for the first time. As you might expect, we're going to have quite a few changes this year at Springdale due to COVID-19. And I'm going to talk about some of those changes. One of the changes is this instrument that I have in my hand, which is a mask. So obviously we're going to all be wearing masks this year. And in terms of daily routine, from an academic standpoint, some of my other fellow department heads and administrators, they're going to talk to you specifically about the academic day, what that would look like. But for me, I'm going to concentrate primarily on athletics. But I start off by saying that we will all be required to wear masks throughout the day. Specifically, as I said before, I want to talk about some of the changes and modifications that we're going to have from an athletic standpoint. In addition to the mask, we're going to also be abiding by the guidelines in terms of policy and procedures that have already been established by the CDC, also the National Federation High School Association, and the Maryland Public State School Association. So everything that we do from a procedure standpoint is going to be in compliance with those three organizations. If you will, I'd like for you to join me. We're going to do a walkthrough. We're going to simulate what a day will look like that will start immediately after students are dismissed from classroom at the end of the school day. And we'll walk all the way through to what a full-fledged practice will look like. So you might be asking, what am I doing sitting at a desk? Great question. I'm simulating what the end of a school day would look like for a student athlete. So I'm in Mr. Wade's class, and of course I'm paying attention, and I just solved for the equation that you just saw quickly within my head. But at the end of the school day at 3:30, the bell will ring, and the student athletes will begin to file out of the classroom one at a time, making sure that they keep an ample social distance between each other. And from there, we have 3 different destinations, 3 different locker rooms for our young ladies and 3 different locker rooms for our boys. And I'm gonna take you on a tour and just to show you what those 3 locker rooms look like and where they're gonna be located. Come and follow. Let's go. A little bit earlier, I alluded to some procedural changes that we'll make this year amid COVID-19. Well, one of those changes, as I said a little bit earlier, is that we're gonna have 3 different locker rooms for each gender. So first, I want to show you the locker rooms that are designated for my young ladies. Please come and join me. As you can see, there's locker room number 1, locker room number 2. Just come and take a look at the space. While there's nothing really glamorous about this space, what's important is that it offers a whole lot of space for student athletes to get undressed, to keep their belongings, all while abiding by the social distancing guidelines that's been established by the CDC, the National Federation High School Association, as well as Maryland Public Schools, Secondary Schools State Association. So there'll be no problem whatsoever in terms of the kids keeping social distance. And we're also going to cover up the windows through the door so we'll make sure our young ladies have plenty of privacy. Come and take a look at locker room number 1. This is, of course, locker room number 2. As you can see, locker room number 1 is almost identical to locker room number 2. Plenty of space, and we don't anticipate that there'll be any issues. Unfortunately, this school year, our student athletes will not be allowed to use their lockers that's in the traditional locker rooms. Because of course, if they're using their lockers and they're adjacent to each other, they wouldn't be able to keep social distance between themselves. So student athletes will be required to put all their belongings within a book bag. And each one of them will have a book bag that will be given to them for their respective teams. So this is our 3rd locker room. This is, of course, the traditional locker room that we used to use prior to COVID-19. Please come take a quick look at it. As you can see, although we have lockers here, as as I said a little bit earlier, the student athletes will not be allowed to use the lockers this year. And they're free to use the shower. Of course, we're going to rotate this locker room so that all of our students will have an opportunity to have it at some point, or should I say all of our female students have an opportunity to have it at some point throughout the season. On the boys' side, this is locker room number 1. And again, we will not have more than 5 student athletes in a locker room at one given time. Please come take a quick look at the locker room. It's built identical to our girls' locker room, so there's no difference. But again, I want to highlight that although we have lockers here, they will not be allowed to use the lockers for the 2020-2021 school year. So you just saw locker room number 2 for our boys. Come take a look at locker room number 3. Very similar to the girls' locker room that I showed you earlier. The girls' locker room number 1 and number 2 is just space. So the guys will be spread out. They'll be more than 8 to 10 feet apart. They'll be able to bring their belongings in here. And this is where they will dress before practice as well as after practice. And so this is where it really counts, right? I know all of my basketball players out there wonder, so how are we going to run through our drills and how we're going to develop this year? Again, great question, and I'm going to try to answer those questions. First and foremost, we're going to divide the girls team in 2 different teams, Team A, Team B. And we're going to do the same thing for the boys, Team A, Team B. So we'll make sure at no given time we have more than 12 student athletes on this court. And if you wonder about the dimensions of the court, as far as the court itself, it is 50 by 88, so there's plenty of space. Now you may see the cones that I have here. The cones simulate coordinates in terms of where the student athletes will be able to initiate each of their drills. And as you can see, each of the cones are at least 8 feet apart, and each basketball player will have their own basketball. So when we take them through drills, they'll be able to use their own ball, and then at the end of the practice, they'll be able to disinfect the ball. The coaches will disinfect the complete gym before the student athletes head back into the locker room. And as you can see on the south end of the court, it's identical, same thing. So at most, we'll have 6 athletes here, 6 athletes here, and again, there's ample space. So until we get the go-ahead to get into live competition by the National High School Federation, we'll basically do conditioning, plyometrics, speed and agility, and skill development. We will not do any live competition until we get the go-ahead by the state of Maryland as well as the National Federation of High School Association. So in terms of facility, as far as where the students will train, we're going to have 3 different facilities that we'll use. 2 at one time, and then we have an alternate facility. First is the gym here. Secondly, we have an outdoor court. We'll take a look at to see how that looks. It's going to be set up the identical same way that we have things set up for our indoor court. And then third, although I won't show you that location, we have a gym across the street that belongs to Art Seibel. He rents it out to us, so when it gets too cold, or we can't, or the weather doesn't permit for us to use the outside court, we'll go over to Mr. Seibel's court. As you can see, this is our weight room. We put a lot of equipment in here, and we do a lot of work. Unfortunately, I'm not 100% sure that we're going to be able to use this weight room. The guidelines are still being developed by National Federation of High School Association, and they're taking the lead from the NCAA. So once those guidelines are developed and we get to go ahead, we'll definitely have workout in here. If we do, we won't have more than 6 student athletes in here at one given time. But in the event that we cannot, we'll be able to take some of the mobile equipment out of here and to be able to use it in different segments. For instance, this is our Vertimax, and we'll be able to take that anywhere. We can actually take that outside, it has suction cups on it, and so we can take our students through those drills. We can do the same thing with the ladders and the hurdles and even some of the weightlifting equipment. So basically what I'm saying, we're gonna do the best we can. We have to remain fluid and adjust throughout the school year. So welcome to our outside courts. We're gonna use these courts as much as possible. Truth be told, we're gonna actually use these courts early on more than we would use our indoor facilities. Thankfully, we got 2 different courts, and they're regulated. They're 50 by 84, although the small diameter is still regulated by National High School Federation. And as we did before, we're gonna have cones that'll be set up for different coordinates that'll be at least 8 feet apart. But more importantly, it's not enclosed. So it'll be a whole lot more healthy for us to practice here. So we're gonna use these courts, and then as it begins to get a little bit cold, then we'll go to the indoor facility over here, and later on we'll go to Art Seibel's gym. So you might be wondering, what about basketball games? How are they gonna be played? Again, it is a very fluid situation. So we're waiting to hear, again, from the National Federation of High School Association, and right now, they have not established when those dates will be released. But just to be safe, tentatively, we're not gonna play any games during the first semester. We would just basically train the entire first semester. And then hopefully the second semester, we can engage in live competition. By that time, I'm really hoping that the numbers will be down and maybe even a vaccine around the corner. But we're looking forward to the basketball season. We just really want to be smart and safe in regards to when we start live competition. Lastly, I got some great news. We just hired a young gentleman. His name is Jason Lawson. Mr. Lawson, he's going to be a math teacher here, but he's also going to start our tennis program. So as athletic director for Springdale, I am very excited that we get a chance to start a tennis program. We're not really sure if it's going to be an intramural program this first year or if it's going to be an interscholastic program. But either way, we're looking forward to starting that program. And Mr. Lawson, Coach Lawson, he's very excited about it also. The next program that's on the horizon will either be baseball or rugby. We're not really sure. Of course, it would depend on the numbers in regard if we'll be able to start either one of those programs for 2021. But we're hoping that we can. As we get students in, we want to make sure that we develop a sports program that's conducive to the skill set and talents of all of our student athletes.
Springdale is a coeducational, international day and boarding school. We are a warm, welcoming, and safe place to learn.